Do you struggle to use your public transport in your local city or area because of poor accessibility? Well, if that's the case in today's show, I'll be shedding some light on some new technology, i.e., in the form of smart transport. And smart transport fits within the policy around developing smart cities that each government around the world is attempting to do. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Bybreen Samuels, and you're here at the Smart Years, a place where baby boomers can reinvent, thrive, and live well into their third act of life. Well, if like me, you've been thoroughly enjoying the Paralympics and then previously the Olympics, it has been fantastic. But one thing that is actually causing a bit of a backlash, particularly for Paris, is the very poor transport system, meaning that they didn't properly cater for the 350,000 people with disabilities and older people with mobility problems, not to mention their own citizens. But there's been a real problem in terms of public transport. Now, they did invest 125 million euros into upgrading the bus system, but actually, what they also needed to do was to invest in the metro. So you might be thinking, well, what is smart transport? I want you to think of it in this way. We have urban cities and the local governments or the city government. What they are doing is bringing together data, innovation, and digital technology. And the whole point of doing this is to enhance the quality of our lives as citizens, residents, tourists, as well as workers. Now, we're seeing development slowly but surely taking place across the world. So, here are a couple of examples. We have Rio de Janeiro, and what they have done there is to use real time data to upgrade their bus timetable so that you can access it instantaneously. And this is available on their 3,900 buses right across the city. Then another example is in Bogota in Colombia. And what they have done is created a digital map of the bike lanes. And so, therefore, all of the cyclists can plan their journey with regards to what's the safest journey and what's the quickest journey. Now, the technology behind this is a technology called the Internet of Things. So, essentially, think about bringing the offline world and the online world together. And the equipment that actually connects the information flow between them are sensors. So sensors are dotted all around the city, and it gathers information and then it just feeds the system. So, as I said, governments are trying to implement this slowly but surely across the world. But currently, we do have a lot of challenges. And the main one really is around accessibility. If you're an older person and as you're aging, you're having difficulty or challenges with your mobility, and if you're somebody that has a disability, then accessing public service is really important, because the less access that we have, particularly as we're aging, I'm not saying it doesn't apply to people with disability, mean that we are stuck in our homes. And so, what can happen? We have loneliness increasing, we have isolation increasing, and then we might have mental health problems, and that can lead to depression. And so, as you can see, each negative indicator pushes us closer to our own sense of fragility and vulnerability. And so that's the reason why having access, great access to public transport, is so important. And so governments around the world have to start making deeper infrastructural investments. There's also an environmental challenge as well as a congestion challenge. So environmentally, we have, the greenhouse gases that affects air quality, and so there's air pollution, and then that affects our health. As you can see, we have this spiraling effect. And then if people are relying on their own private, vehicles, and they're relying on fossil fuels, again, that is, adding to the poor quality of air. But then there's too much cars on the road. And so, it stacks up against the quality of life that we're trying to live as we are living longer. And by the way, on October the 1st, it's Longevity Day, otherwise known as Older People's Day. So around the world, this day is being celebrated in recognition of who we are as older people and how it's one of these moments through the sort of public calendar where there's a recognition of older people and what our needs can be. But there are solutions. So a couple here, one here in the UK, I'm based here in London. So 2 years ago, Transport for London, which is the governing body, I suppose, for transport here in London, they launched a new line called the Elizabeth Line, and there are 41 stations, 41 platforms. And one of the great things about the Elizabeth Line is the fact that each of them is step-free access. So you don't have to navigate stairs or getting on the escalator. So they built all of the stations, the 41 of them, as step-free access. At the center of their policy is inclusivity. And the way they demonstrate inclusivity is they ensure that every single one of their stations is staffed by qualified members of staff who engage with travelers because they understand that the transport system should be there for every single person to use. So if you do have a mobility issue, you have a disability, you can still access this line. Then we now need to look to Lausanne in Switzerland. And what they have done is improve their metro system. And they have these markings on the floor. They also have braille on the handrails. They use video and audio signals. And all of the stations in Lausanne are completely wheelchair accessible, as well as accessible to everybody else. So we're seeing these green shoots of technology that's permeating into our transport system. Another example here in London, we have something called the Oyster card. And so London, under Transport for London, created this contactless payment, which has revolutionized how we travel here in the city. Again, it's been used as a model around the world. And then recently, there's an announcement by a local borough here in the UK, in London, called Merton, and they have a train station called Motspur Park. And towards the end of September, so just, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, they are trialing this new smart transport in Motspur Park train station. So slowly but surely, the ecosystem of travel within the UK, but particularly here within London, is being transformed. There are 272 stations, and 90 of those stations are wheelchair accessible. They've upgraded them to become smart transport. So what's the challenge here? So we've had a sense of the challenge. Why should you care? Well, you should care because you can plan your journey really in real time. If we have smart transport, that means that we have more freedom. We'll be able to plan our journeys with more precision. But also we can navigate our cities and our towns with more independence. And as we begin to age, we still want to do the things that, hold our attention. And part of that is having access to a really functional transport system that enables us to have a social life. Also, if we are not using our private cars, I don't drive, I've never driven, I'm a committed non-driver. But if we're reducing the number of cars that are used, that means that we have a better reliance on the public service, and therefore that enables us to live in cleaner environments. So I'd love to hear some of the developments that are going on in your towns, in your cities, wherever you are in the world. How are you engaging with this smart technology, smart transport? What's the level of transformation that's taking place within your transport system in your local area? Put your comment in the comment box below. I'd love to exchange ideas with you. Let's get into a conversation about this. and stay well until I see you again on the next show. Bye bye.